but it happened. Rwanda drops all need for a visa for any African citizens while entering Rwanda. I think this is a great thing. All other African countries should follow suit. Let the African people have free access to either country. We are one people anyway. The King of the United Kingdom, King Charles, is in our neighbors Kenya for a 4-day state visit. That the war in Israel is still on, and we know the numbers are spiking up. But what we are certain is that now the Israeli troops have made grand entries now to wipe out Hamas. But to help me discuss the topic of discussion this morning is Council Bwenze Deus Didit, who is a lawyer. Peter Mpaka, member of the National Inter Platform, and Mr. Imekatera, who is the resident district commissioner from Barra District. I want to welcome you, gentlemen, to tonight, to this morning edition of the Big Set. Let me start with Peter Mpaka. Good morning and welcome to the Big Set.
Yeah, good morning, Westje, and good morning, my dear friends here, Council Wenje and Bwana RDC, and good morning to you, Westje, and our dear listeners. I really want to welcome our listeners to this wonderful show. It's one of a kind because we're going to be digging into some of the historical history of Uganda. And on the other big note for me, this week has been wonderful. My party has been able to achieve something that the NRM in the last 37 years or so has not even taken a step to achieve. So I congratulate members of the National Inter Platform and our able leadership for being able to put up an office structure within Kampala. And also, that is a sign that in the future, our future will be bright. Otherwise, I welcome you to this wonderful show and wish you a nice listening in.
All right, welcome, Peter Mpaka. Good morning. Constable Angel, good morning and welcome to the Big Set.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. I want to start off by stating, as we have always done as the National Revolution for the Restoration of Uganda, NARU, of which I'm the president, that we advocate for a two-state solution in the Israel-Palestinian conflict, and we call on the two states to exercise restraint and try to prevent further loss of life. And I also emphasize that as long as there's no peace in Palestine, there will never be peace in Israel. And I want also to urge the Ugandan government to stop sitting and watching, to try to extend some foreign aid to the people of Palestine. Because in where we are now, because Israel is the perpetrator of human rights violations there. The people of Palestine are victims of human rights violations, and so they are on the weaker end, and so they deserve urgent intervention of the UN. And of course, I also want to extend my wishes, actually good wishes, to the peoples of P7 who are about to start their PRE examinations. I wish them success and an unconditional success. And I want to warn teachers and schools who cheat for their pupils. The people should pass on merit. If the people has not read enough, she or he should fail. And also want to urge UNEB not to have mercy. If a student has failed, that is it. There's no extra marks.
There is no way
whether
around
you come from Karamoja, whether you come from Kampala, you ought to know the content. And of course, the poor state of the UPE schools is contributing to the very high dropout rate and poor performance of pupils and students.
Welcome, Council Wenze did it there. Good morning, Bwana RDC Imekatera, and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, Mr. Banyaji. Good morning, Bwana Council, and the NUP colleague, whom I congratulate that to have opened their headquarters yesterday. I am here to, first of all, I want to congratulate the people of Buchiro yesterday. We had hosted the Minister of Lands and Urban Development, Honorable Judith Nabakova, of where they had been having a problem of a certain overlapping land title, which was overlapping other land titles on the land, and our people were insecure, especially on issues of land ownership. And you know, when we are talking of land, we are talking of life. But yesterday, Honorable Nabakova brought good news that the overlapping land, which was actually nicknamed as a special title, was ably cancelled by the Minister of Lands.
All right.
And I also want to wish well the candidates of P7 and all candidates actually, because you remember this is an examination period, both for O level and A level. So we want to wish them very well and wish them a very good future.
All right, welcome, Mr. Imekatera, the Simbar district. Now we're hitting a short break. When we come back into our topic of discussion, don't forget you'll take a chance to win a couple of goodies here. Goddess of November Love here. When we come back from a short breather. Good morning.
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
Real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
Welcome back. 21 minutes past 9 o'clock on Western Uganda biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. Good morning. My name is Wesi Gebanyaji. With me in studio is Mr. Imekatera, who is the resident district commissioner, Mbara District, Mr. Peter Mpaka, who is a member of the National Inter-Platform and Council Wenje, those did it, who is a lawyer. Our topic of discussion this morning is on the legacy of Idi Amin Dada, whether the president is right not to allow an institute named after him, going by the legacy that we all know. And I think the president should pick off the good that this man did for our country. There's a couple of things to even talk about. But let me give it to Mr. Imekatera to help us understand whether the president is right not to really go ahead to ask the minister to reconsider a license to this institute to be named after Idi Amin.
So much, Mr. Banyaji. First of all, I want to remind you that I represent the president in this district.
Yes.
And therefore, there is no way I can contradict his thinking, but which I also support 100%. One of the issues that we need to punish people who are doing wrong at the moment is to make sure that they are never remembered after they have gone. Therefore, when we are talking of legacy, actually, in fact, legacy is something that may known positive on somebody's deeds when he is no longer alive. That I think that is no, whether he's long gone, not necessarily dead.
Let's talk about this man called General Idi Amin Dada.
Yes, I know
He
him.
was the president of the republic from 71 to 79, 8 years of amazing
And
work.
I want to tell you
we can
that by
call
the
it
time
sometime.
Idi Amin ascended the power, I was in primary 6. Therefore, I was mature enough to see what was going on. I was one of those who received him in Makobore High School grounds at that time after takeover in 1971. And I followed exactly what happened when actually I witnessed what was going on, and I have also read So his legacy, I know right from by the time he took over government, how this country was and how he left it.
But what do you think of people that say, unlike Amin, who allegedly killed the elite and members of a public service, this regime is allegedly accused of killing the ordinary citizens of this country? Wouldn't it be fit to say it's President Museveni expecting too much from a legacy that himself is not very detached from?
You know, I think we need to tell the present generation, including my fellow panelists here, that there is what we call extrajudicial killings, extermination of life, of which the Honorable Council knows very well. Personally, I witnessed in 1973 when people were being shot dead in front of the public under what we used to call firing squad. People were arrested in all parts of Uganda, allegedly that they wanted to topple the government. And they were made to be shot in their respective districts before the public. And at the same time, I remember they shot 4 people in Kabari Stadium when I was present. And the time was at 2:30 p.m.
Yes, but
Yes, okay?
Mr. RDC,
And those people, when they were being shot dead, first of all, they had already been arrested, and they were never given any chance of defending themselves. They were sentenced. That's what we call extrajudicial. They were never given a chance of defense, and they were. Now, I also remember very well in 1977 when Amin ordered killing of all Lanjis and Acholis in the whole country. Yes, they were killed. I was in Butobere College. I want to tell you, I am an authority on this.
please.
I was in Butobere College that very unfortunate morning when state research men came and rounded up all the policemen of Kabari Barracks, all the military police who were in Chikunjiri, and we had a teacher who was called, I think, Obur. He was our teacher chemistry. We had to hide him. They brought them on the parade, read their names, handcuffed them, and shot them, took them and killed them. Actually, in Chikunjiri military police barracks, there was a resistance and people fought. We saw all what happened. And actually, that is the time they killed the Archbishop and the Inspector General of Police and the Minister of Internal Affairs. So all those things are still very in our heads. So as such a person, you name an institute before his name. To remember him for what? For the people we are producing right now.
This is a man that hosted the African Union here in Uganda. There are a couple of infrastructure and service delivery that are costed on General Idi Amin Dada, and people say that he worked for the Ugandan people.
True.
And that cannot be
true, but
wished away.
Mr. Banyaji, you can do something good, but it is overlapped by something bad that you have done.
Let's evaluate.
So when we evaluate what Amin did well and what he did good, actually the percentage does not balance.
All right. Now we know most that he's accused of is the abductions of the citizens of Uganda in the time and killing them and never to be seen again.
Because
we know, Mr. Imi Katera, that their family is up to date. From the events of November 2021, they have not seen their loved ones. The state cannot account for them.
The other time,
and that looks similar to what happened to Amin.
I was here the other week, and I ably talked about that, about the human rights report. Some of those alleged people to have disappeared, we have not yet got any evidence that even they existed. And we have some of these people are even in their diaspora. Actually, the other day, the presidential press the presidential press secretary actually said, have we checked even those people who are in Canada and who are in self-exile, who have self-exiled themselves? So you cannot say, they bring evidence that this is Banyaji, this is the national ID, because that's why we have the national IDs. The national IDs contains information that can trace where you were born from, who was your grandfather and who was your father. We have not had those people say this person was here, we no longer see him, he was here and there. So you cannot simply come and bring blanket accusation that people have disappeared.
Mr. Katera, one of the things that President Museveni has been very proud of, he has said that for the many years that I've been president of Uganda, there is not a single Ugandan that has been exiled because that is in exile because of the effect of the state.
Very good.
We know now there are a couple of Ugandans that are in exile because of what the state has done to them.
Let me tell you, Bwana Banyaji.
Yes.
There is what we call self-exile. If you decide just on your own.
The people
Because
like Kalika,
Banya-
people who flew to Kenya in the times of Idi Amin were self-exiling themselves.
First wait.
Isn't that comparable?
Nobody wanted them here to be killed. For example, Besigye is on a record here. You remember? He just escaped here in 2001, and went to South Africa. You remember that very well.
Yes.
And talked what he talked about against the government.
Yes.
He flew back and he was received at the entire airport. Bob Wine recently, he has been going all over the capitals of the whole world.
Why don't you talk about those that are, yes.
No, first wait. Castigating government. Castigating what? The man flies back and here. Okay? If anything is escorted and guarded, such that nobody touches him. So when you are telling me, yes, who is worse? No, who is worse? Who claims to be in exile and is wanted than Bob Wine and Besigye? Who is worse?
All right. Let's come back after a very short breather.
It's 9 a.m. Your local time check.
Oh no, yes, sports we know.
It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
Welcome back. It's 32 minutes. We're talking about the legacy of General Idi Amin Dada, who was the president of Uganda between 1971 and 1974, toppled by the Tanzanian forces with the help of Ugandans that were in the diaspora by then. Talk about the front that was headed by His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and a couple of other members of society, including Yusufulule, Nabudede, and so many that were part of that to get rid of who they call the dictator. With me in studio is Mr. Imekatera, who is the resident district commissioner, Mbara District, Mr. Peter Mpaka, who belongs to the National Inter-Platform and Council Bwenje, those did it, who is a lawyer. Let me get to Peter Mpaka here. Peter, you definitely cannot compare the current regime to what Amin did in the 70s. We know of great minds of Uganda that we lost at the hands of the dictator. We cannot wish that away because we know, talk about people like the former Archbishop and so many Ugandans that up to today cannot be accounted for because the State Research Bureau and the reckless, uneducated military at the time captured them, abducted them, and they disappeared. Is it really good wisdom that you even compare what is happening currently to what happened in the 70s?
Thank you, SJ, and thank you for this wonderful topic. Now, I want to say that if you put your ears on ground, you will start to hear other narratives that give account to some of the great minds that we're talking about that were killed extrajudicially and kidnapped and have never been seen again. And that's why I really want to congratulate my comrade Jimmy here for being able to first put a disclaimer on his submission that listeners, please, I'm going to give my submission, but you know that I'm a representative of the president. So whatever I'm saying it for the sake
Not
of
for the
being
sake.
yes, you
I
said
said I
it.
support
The
him
listeners were here, but you
No.
first put a disclaimer before you put that. So I want to tell the listeners that you can see the struggles of our comrade, our dad here, Mr. Jimmy Katera. Ime Katera,
Yes.
in trying to defend even his best of friends and boss, President Yoweri Museveni. Now, on one of those narratives that I've talked about, there is a narrative that tries to depict how Ben Kiwanuka was killed.
Yes.
And the son of Amin, up to today, still says President Museveni should come out clearly and explain how he was, there is a certain car he was driving and allegedly Ben Kiwanuka was in that car. So I think I'm trying to, in a way, hint on the question that you've asked me, that some of these stories we have today are not entirely fully true, that they were orchestrated and executed by Amin. That you know that the NRM, for the people who have been following the NRM, you know that NRM is good at propaganda, propanyankore, propachiga, and they can use they can create scenarios so that you believe what you ought not to believe. So I want to say that when you read the mustard seed, there is a whole chapter. I think there are 2 chapters that President Museveni titled Fighting Idi Amin. The first chapter, the first statement, the first sentence in that chapter, the man said that when Amin ascended to power, the following morning he was going to work. I think he was staying somewhere around Bugolobi there. So he found people scattered in groups discussing and talking, and they asked him that, where are you heading? He told them, me, I'm going to work. They asked him, don't you know what happened in town? He said, I don't know. Then that's when he got to know that Amin had toppled the government of Obote and declared himself as a leader. And he said that in the evening, so President Museveni submitted himself to Amin's leadership, I think, for just a matter of maybe 8 or 6 hours. In the evening, he said he gathered his colleagues, and from then they started fighting Amin. And up to today, President Yoweri Museveni is fighting Idi Amin. And for me, I want to say, and I don't say this as an opposition activist.
How can
I say
President
this,
Museveni
yes.
fight a man that died 20 years ago?
He is, yes, because that's why we are discussing this topic.
Yes.
Refusing just an institute to give a history. You see, when you look at like the presidents of the United States of America, all the presidents who have been there, they have a collection of articles. They have a library, they have something like a museum that talks about what Barack Obama did, what even this
Abraham Lincoln, Washington.
all those things are there.
Roosevelt.
So President Museveni, in his fighting, I mean, since 1971 up to today, there is too much history, there is too much richness, there is too much wealth that he is denying us, the Bazukulu, as he calls us. I want to say that there is a lot that Ugandan history is missing, and a lot is sugar coated or is covered in propaganda. I mean, he did this, he did that, he killed. I've said some of the narratives are disputed, but also you find that there is always something lacking in what is being submitted to us. So I want to be a bit nationalistic in this discussion. If Amin was able to rule Uganda for
8 years,
8 years, and the subsequent presidents who came in, Professor Rule, some who were even professors,
Bena is a very polished
a
man.
very polished man. Then you have others. You have. Why is it that this man who is a who didn't start is a P4 dropout?
About that.
About how was he able to lead the country despite the resistances that he was facing for 8 years? I think there is a lot of wealth. There is a lot of information that we are being denied from there. So for me, as a person who want to be a bit nationalist, and I don't want to be so political, party-wise, bending on this, I think this is President Museveni is denying us something very, very fundamental to the history of Uganda. You cannot simply erase that chapter in Uganda's history. You cannot just close that book and say we had Kabaka Mutesa, then we had Obote, then we had Museveni. Amin will always be part of us.
We're stopping for a break. When we come back, definitely I'll be giving a meal courtesy of Curry and Harry restaurant here at High Street. So if I told you in Barra, I would advise you that you call in when we come back from the break to get yourself a meal at that restaurant, Curry and Harry restaurant. Kansabwenje, after the break. Good morning.
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
If you're not too The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
We're back. It's about 9:45 on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, good friends. My name is Wesi Gabanyaji. We are talking about the legacy of Idi Amin Dada. But before we get into that, let me give you an opportunity to win yourself a meal at Harry and Curry restaurant. Now, it is located at opposite Centenary Bank at Cooper House, first floor on High Street. Now, they're the best in fish, chicken, vegetable, and goat biryani, the tastiest chicken curry and parato, and the best tandoori meals in Barra City. Be able to call in on 788-054-054 for orders and reservations. So if at all you want, for orders and any reservations, call 0788 054 Curry and Harry restaurant right there. Now, Colin, I'm going to ask you a few questions and you win yourself. I advise people in Barra, because would you travel from Kabale for a meal, and don't forget you get a hamper, courtesy of November Love too. So on top of the meal at Curry and Harry, you get yourself a hamper. Call in on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. November Love. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name?
This is Mweti Sekenes from Musenyi.
Would you come for a meal at Harry and Curry restaurant?
Yes, sir.
Would you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, how many years is Cruise FM celebrating?
12 years.
12 years. And perhaps the second question that I could ask you, when does the coffee break run on Cruise FM?
Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
All right, fantastic. Repeat your name.
Kenneth Mweti Sekenes.
Kenneth Mwetise.
Yeah.
Give me your number.
0785
0785
34
34
29 55.
All right, Bushen, you win yourself a meal at Curry and Harry restaurant. Kenneth, congratulations. All right, Council Bwenze, the legacy of Idi Amin Dada. I'm very sure that for you, there is a likelihood of what is happening currently to what happened in the 70s. But I should make you know that we have not lost any Chief Justice at the hands of the state. Neither have we lost an Archbishop at the hands of the state. Why would we go ahead to praise such a man who is known globally as a person who killed his own people?
Thank you so much. Now, I heard the submissions of the RDC, but to me they appear to be the submissions of a shamba boy of the president, not a person, not a senior civil servant paid under the consolidated fund.
That is below the belt. That is insulting.
No.
That is unacceptable.
It's not an insult.
It's unacceptable.
So unfortunate that we
A
have such a
senior,
people
a
here in the
senior
studio.
civil servant.
You call me a Shabbat
A
boy?
senior civil
When I can
servant.
pay you?
Actually, I'm the one who pays him.
You
I'm
pay
the
me what?
taxpayer.
What do you earn?
I'm the taxpayer.
Okay,
You are
let's
paying
go.
what?
Let's.
I'm the taxpayer.
You declare what you pay every month.
So
Okay.
he's paid
That
out
is
of
just
my
Yes,
taxes.
Don't
we
abuse the
accept.
radio.
We accept
not-
that was
that's
below the
Not
belt.
an abuse.
In
All
fact,
right.
That's not an abuse. That's not an abuse.
Let's allow him
That's
submit.
not an
Mr.
abuse.
RDC.
That's
Yes.
He
not
called
an
the
abuse.
Yes.
You see,
All
when
right.
he said that,
You are
you
better
see,
than this
a
man.
No,
senior
let's
civil
allow
servant,
him, Mr. Katera.
No, no,
See,
no, no, no.
No, for
I
cannot
decorum.
allow that.
Yeah,
See.
I've called it. I've made a ruling that was
senior
out of
civil
order.
servant, a senior civil servant swears an oath under the Constitution and is bound by the Public Service Standing Order.
But I didn't see anything wrong with what Mr.
Yes.
Imekatera said
And me, I'm
about
seeing it. And me, I'm seeing it. I'm
Yes,
the one who's
and
submitting.
that is okay.
Yes, I'm the one who's
yes,
submitting.
but for him to say
Yes.
we cannot. Yes,
No, you see, there is a difference between an abuse and an insult.
okay. Please make.
I have a
make-
right to abuse him, but I do not have a right to insult him.
I am a
No.
Yes.
No.
You see,
Let's not watch
he's
down
paid-
the
By the way,
debate.
You see,
Uh,
people like
Mr.
him.
Mr.
You see,
People,
People-
Mr.
people
he has
like
gotten
him.
the message. Let's have
See,
order.
people like him and his fellow RDCs are the epitome of whatever has gone wrong in this country. They abuse their offices as public officers to support the NRM.
Now to the legacy of Idi Amin.
So, and I want to also to run straight to his superior, who is the president of the Republic of Uganda.
Yes.
Now, in that letter, the letter of October 5th, now those statements therein that the regime of Idi Amin was illegal and unconstitutional. Amin killed many people, and so he cannot be remembered for that. Now, those are statements of a man who is failing to think, to reason, and who is bogged and wrestled down by anger, emotions, and shame, and embarrassment, and fear of being overshadowed by a dead man. There is no competent court in our country which has ever convicted Idi Amin of any offense, not even murder, not even stealing a cow.
How would they have convicted this man who, after being toppled by the Tanzanian forces, fled to Zaire?
No, people, you see, under international law,
yes,
and even under our constitution, under Article 28.5, a person can be tried in his absence. So the failure and the intentional failure of the regime of President Museveni to try Amin for his alleged crimes against humanity is their own fault. And they should not substitute that for the presumption of innocence. Idi Amin is still presumed innocent. After all, the agents of President Museveni have always been open and said that many of the atrocities which were allegedly committed by Obote and Amin were committed by us dressed in the uniform of the forces of the day. So he cannot come here and convince us that Amin is responsible for even a single death, because no court has ever convicted him of the same. What actually Museveni is a person who is trying to struggle with the fact that it is possible that Idi Amin might have performed better than him.
That is not true. You and I have been long enough to notice that the president cannot be compared to what Idi Amin did, even when we know there are shortfalls in the regime.
What good has...
Just a second.
Yes.
For all fairness, I want you to give us 2 minutes to enlist the good things that Amin did, and also give Comrade Ime, also 1 minute. I think 2 minutes is a lot. For him, give him 1 minute to tell us the wrong things that Amin did.
I'll give it to him, yes.
Because he'll always say killings.
Yes.
Actually,
Okay. All right.
what Museveni is doing is to maliciously delete all the achievements of President Idi Amin. You see, President Idi Amin was being paid out of the taxpayers' money. He was our president for 8 years. So you cannot just say that that person, we cannot, or we have no right to remember him. Now, the regime of President Museveni also came into power by force of arms. And there's nothing illegal and unconstitutional about the regime of Idi Amin. It's not there. When Idi Amin came, he introduced Legal Notes number 1 of 1971. When Museveni came, he also introduced Legal Notes number 1 of 1986. Now, the purpose and import of those two statutory instruments was to suspend the provisions of the Constitution which provided for a parliament. So the two of them are equally guilty. And of course, it was, I think, around 2 months ago, we came here and we talked about the Hans Kelsen theory. That as long as a new constitutional order comes into force, is effective, it is the order of the day. And irrespective of...
But no one is saying that President Idi Amin wasn't president in the 70s.
No
one is disputing
say
that
that
fact.
his government was illegal and unconstitutional, because I've read the statements of Dr. Baryomunsi and of course the president of Uganda. So they all allude to the illegality and unconstitutionality of the regime of Idi Amin. Just because he suspended parliament, he ruled by what? By force and so forth. But also Museveni has ruled us by decrees. You remember in the COVID era.
But that wasn't
Museveni-
illegal. The president, the constitution,
Exactly. And I'm saying
allows the
there was
president.
nothing illegal.
Yes.
So whatever Amin did, Museveni has repeated it. Museveni suspended parliament. He suspended Chapter 5 of the 1967 Constitution, specifically Article 39, which established the Parliament of Uganda. And he became the order. The executive authority and the legislative powers were vested in Museveni as a person. Because you also remember that he was also the chairperson of the National Resistance Council, which was a substitute for the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. So there's no difference between him and Idi Amin. What they did was allowed under the law. Okay? Because we did not have an equivalent of the third article of our constitution now in the 1967 constitution, which does not allow the suspension of the constitution or a provision of the constitution. So by the enactment of legal notices number 1 of 1971 and number 1 of 1986, those regimes were not doing anything illegal and unconstitutional.
All right.
So the statements of Museveni are, of course, not backed by law. Actually, they are statements of a person who is afraid of a person who has died.
All right. Let's link up in the second
And he has no right
hour.
to stop any other person from establishing an institute. To remember Idi Amin, who was our president and head of state and government, and also he was also our minister of defense.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We're coming back in the second hour. Now, when we link up, I'll be able to give you an opportunity to win another goodie courtesy of November Love. But I will be able to also open the lines to call in and contribute about the topic of discussion this morning. But drop us a line on our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Twitter. Cruise TV is where you can also catch the show there. We're stopping for break.
politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
All right, it's a minute past 10 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, good friends. We are celebrating 12 years of being the biggest in the region. We're giving back to the listeners. For wherever that you are, please take chance and celebrate with us 12 years. We are giving back in a very big way. But it's not too late for a business owner to walk in here and get advertising on 50% discounts up to the end of this particular month. What you do, if at all the money is small, not much, you can give us a product, a service, whatever it is, in giving back to our listeners. But I want to thank the people that are catching the show online from wherever that you are. I know in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, in Gaza, where things are going so wrong, and you're listening to the show. We thank you. But in all the capitals across the African continent, thank you for catching the show. And those in the capital city here in Kampala, in Nairobi, in South Africa, in Dar es Salaam, in Lagos, Nigeria, all these places. Don't forgetting the people of Umbara, Ntungamo, Bushenyi, Tsoro, Fort Porto, Rukunjiri, where I come from, and all these places. You do us very good. Now call in to join the topic on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. Let's get to hear from you on what you think about the legacy of General Idi Amin Dada. Should this... yes? Yes.
I wanted to say something.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Before we allow in the callers, I wanted to add on my earlier submission. First of all, I wouldn't want our bickering in the studio here to overshadow the information our good listeners should listen. Number one, in 1971, after Amin's takeover, and in 1972, Amin gave 3 months period for all Indians to have vacated Uganda, and indeed they did. And these were the people who were holding the economic power of the country. And from that time, up to by 1978, when he was removed.
But the Ugandans who say, in fact, that was a setback because the economy should be in the hands of Ugandans, and now we know the richest Ugandan is of Indian descent. So
that's why I'm talking about that. It was not the way, the process he did it was not good. And indeed, by 1978, I want to tell you that all vehicles, because I was here, first wait. The economy, to the extent that we didn't have a single, even essential item in any shop in Uganda. Everything was coming. For example, we are getting just shop from Rwanda. So by 1978, I am talking to those who witnessed that period, that things had completely collapsed, that people now had resorted to going on bicycles. Now, Amin, President Museveni is not hinting the legacy of Amin, if at all there is any legacy anyway. We are seeing the son of Amin being a member of parliament for Chiriandongo at one time, under NRM ticket. Under NRM ticket. Now, people here who wants to be advocates of Amin more than his own children, then they are mispressed. We are talking about the extrajudicial killings and freedom of speech. A man, the so-called council with us in this studio today, could not talk against a governor of Amin, who was a governor of this region, and he calls him a Shamba boy, and he survives today. He would now, that would be now a sentence for his days today.
That is true.
That one I want to show
you. You don't leave this.
You wouldn't leave this one.
No
one has the right to kill me.
I'm talking what I mean.
But what is factual is in the regime of Idi Amin, and you made such a statement, it would end here.
No, people have been killed for making statements here.
So now, you leave me.
Who has been killed?
Where's Mayombo?
We are going into something else.
Man is sick.
Please.
Let me finish.
Please, let's allow the RDC.
Let me finish.
Yes.
Now I have seen the type of a person I have in the studio. Now,
No.
but listeners are listening.
Yes.
During Amin's regime, there was no election. There was no parliament. There was no freedom of speech, as we are talking about now. Now I'm talking.
No. We must act in a very organized way. Please, I can give you paper. No. Wait. Listen. No. Please, can you keep quiet?
You were talking. I was
Get a piece of paper and a pen. Note down what you think you should raise against the RDC. No. We have an entire hour here. RDC.
Please, I was trying to talk about why we should not remember. I am trying to talk about what I'm supporting. Why
please, you have the floor.
Yes. Why I'm not. First, I said there was no election. There was no parliament. The extrajudicial killing was the order of the day. Nobody would be allowed to talk against the regime of the day at that time. Any person suspected to be against the regime would be actually kidnapped and killed. But what have we seen in this regime? Actually, I'm not here to compare these two regimes. I'm here to talk about why Amin should not be remembered by naming him of a certain institution of government. Yes, because these people here,
these young people here,
these are young people, the product of NRM in 1986. Yes. Now,
but you're young people.
You are young
who did not live to see the Idi Amin regime.
They are suffering. They are suffering.
We don't have to see it.
You see, SJ, we don't dispute the fact that NRM immunized me. And I didn't die of tetanus or diphtheria.
It is the duty of NRM to immunize every child. It's the duty.
But that should not be a brand.
But there are countries in Somalia where they have
there is a social
infant mortality rate
between the NRM and the people of Uganda
Can I conclude? Can I conclude?
Yes.
Even in those days, where were the social contracts they are talking about now? They have the courtesy of talking now of their rights because the rights have been restored. There was no social contract during Amin's regime, which you are talking about. The population of Uganda by the time Idi Amin left this country was around 12 million people. Not because Uganda was small, because people were dying both extrajudicially and being killed by killer diseases. In 1986, when we started immunizing and vaccinating these young men and their mothers, that's how they are able here. We have brought all these institutions of learning, including law schools, which they have come with the knowledge and they are using now.
Let's go to the lifeline of the show. Let's go.
Actually, the struggle we have. Most of these lawyers are dead. We are actually now struggling to see where they can get employment.
The lawyers are now redundant.
Yes.
Okay, respond. Let's allow him.
Number one, the RDC is talking about the expulsion of Asians by Idi Amin. But his president on the 19th of May expelled Bararo from northern Uganda. How different are the two?
But the president is a cattle keeper. If it was anyone, it would be him to feel
what is the
for the people.
What is the difference between Indians and the Bararo herdsmen? They all have a right to livelihood.
You reading the news?
Of course, I know
the president was in it.
He has extended the ultimatum, but he has not removed that order. So the Bararo in northern Uganda are on tenterhooks. Number two,
Kansobwenje. You cannot compare the expulsion of Indians who are running the economy of Uganda in the 70s to telling Balalo who are possessing illegal land.
No. They have a right to move anywhere in Uganda
and damage also, anything.
Let us not forget that President Idi Amin was the heavyweight boxing champion of Uganda for 10 years.
That's an underscore. That's not a big thing to talk about a president. There are more responsibilities. Let's go to the lifeline of the show. The telephone calls on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The big say, let's listen to the callers.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? Dixon, you're speaking so softly, we can barely hear you.
I'm Dixon from Tigama Sema.
Yes, Dixon in Tsugarama Shema.
I was talking about the legacy of that man, Amin.
Mm.
He was consisted of many prostitutions. That's why he should not be remembered.
Okay. I didn't hear you well anyway, but thank you for the call up. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Wesley.
Good morning. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Jordan from Chigarama Shema.
Yes, Jordan Tsugarama Shema, November Love.
Remember,
Yes.
So talking about the legacy of Amin,
Mm.
he should not be remembered. And he was consisted of many prostitutions, arresting girls, raping them, putting them in adultery things.
All right, we'll get you. The big set. Cruise FM, good morning. Yes, lost that call. On 752-912-912-1780912-910. Those are the two numbers you can be able to call in so that we get to hear from you. But November love to all our dear listeners. We love you and we thank you for being a part of the 12 years. The big set.
Council,
Good morning, Muhead is out.
how are you doing, my man?
I am doing perfectly okay. November love.
Enough love to you.
Yes, to the matter.
First of all,
Mm.
I want to thank the panelists that you have in the studios,
Yes,
and you personally to recognize me. That means that I'm a friend of Cruise FM.
indeed you are.
Let me tell you this one. That man called Idi Amin Dada. Let me say this one in my local language. Kugira ngo buryo mbona kaduga base kumanya. Mazima obubwire bwa Amin Dada nkanta kazirwe toka kukuba nimpura ba mukade balyono bangambire imbere yabire ruho compared to this regime ningashi obwire buturuheje shaha nshime kwangira ngo obwire bwa Amin Mr. Braga ngutugwijuke no kugwijuka habwo kuba okohurira ngo umuntu bamukwata bamishara hamaraka ohurira ngo kubareba wakwate no wajiteko mushaho bakwirukaga babo kwita bajanga kasante bakakutemeho chonka za banka obara miliyoni 10 oziteka hasha otamburo genda which means security je shaheruho so atiko kuba nogira ngo Amin Dada comparing no bwire mazima no bunabe nabere ntaruho cyo bwire bukaburyo bwire bubi obuce bwati no kwijuka no bwire tujya ngo bundi tubwijuke kaso
yes
deka mpereza abandi akachansi
yebare
nabo batereza babasha kutekateka November love
on 752-912-912-1780912-910. Calling the big set. Hello caller. We can hear you. The big set.
Hello,
Turn down the volume of your radio.
you're speaking to Gilbert from Canada.
Yes, Gilbert.
I would like to have the gift from November love.
That's not the time for it. On 752-912-912-1780912-910. Calling, but we talk about the legacy of Idi Amin Dada. We're not talking about November love for now because I'll let you know when you can win yourself a goodie. Now to Facebook at 91.2. Matthias Major, you're in your hands and you're saying the oppressed shall live to suffer, sister. Human rights are violated on politics of identity, and once the oppressor decides to give opposition a chance of exercising their rights and freedom, then he will lose the game. And let's get to hear from you on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The big seat.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Dixon again, I'm coming back.
No, let's get to hear from someone else. On 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The big set. We lost that call. The big set. Hello. Yes, please. Good morning. Yes, we can't hear you very clearly. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling in with David Devereche, Hanuya in Mbarara.
Yes. What's your name?
Bureja David Mbarara here.
Yes, David.
Konko kugamba okutwaliza hamwe obwire bwa hati tubo bwabe buri obwira kushanga ngo hati bakatereza umurumo kasese batera yenkoni konka kwenda mbiyise nkubwire obwira babanya ona nonye tegereza bashanga hati washanga nkata roko nabo mbakikora nk'ibyira murembo gwa ndinga nkuguwo mino gwawe kuruho wahamba umwana muto ninga bawe bakwize.
All right. We were not hearing you very clearly. That's why we had to end it there. Biamkama Aaron on Facebook, you're saying, I don't wonder why President Museveni is still fighting with a dead person, because Museveni knows clearly that Amin achieved big in only 8 years than what Museveni has been able to do in 40 years. What did you expect? Thank you for that feedback. Ivan Palvov, you're saying, thank you for the show all the way from Ivanda. I think His Excellency the President is right. He has been in power for over 40 years. How many institutions have been founded in his name? The current generation knows Museveni than Amin, and I think Museveni can't allow it. Mose Cox, you're saying he's just rejecting it because of the shame. How can you rule for 40 years and the only thing you remember about you is kidnaps and massive killings of innocent people? Amin deserves to be remembered. Musinguzi Onesimus on Facebook, you're saying it is so right to do that in memory of him, because it should be understood and appreciated that the late Idi Amin Dada did not do only bad things, but the good things too for the country. Noamanya Edson, you're saying Idi Amin performed very well and did many good things, which are still visible up to now. But the problem is that Mr. Museveni bases himself on only the negatives. We should recognize Amin. You're listening in from Kakova. Wakanda Rogers, you're saying President Idi Amin never fought a war and left the government peacefully. Museveni had a massacre, and that's why he has never spoken good about Idi Amin. President Idi Amin declared land ownership for the government, and no other persons owned land. But now it's all land grabbers. Kabagambe, the Valentine, you're saying thank the panelists. I think Mr. Museveni has done what should be done as a president. Idi Amin did what he did at the time. Niwamanya Edson, I saw you. Derek Tarema, you're saying he should have allowed to be named because he also did what he did during his tenure, and he shouldn't consider it nothing. We may judge him as someone who would do things directly. Thank you to Yamasima Gordon. You're listening in from Roharo, and you're saying, I think it is a right move to name that institute after Idi Amin. If Mandela Kavalega can be honored, why not Idi Amin? President Museveni should show respect to those that retired. And let me end with Misach Mwenekafra. You're saying for the reason that he was once your president, they should name the institute after him no matter. On 752-912-912, So let me pick two calls and I get back to the panel here in studio. The big set.
Hello, Cruise FM.
Yes, good morning. Ndireje Shaniwo.
Wagamana Rogers Ruganiro Wampara. Noni ndeba obwire obwakare buri nko kwa hati. Obwire obwakare ko tatambure churu. Bakaba kusharamara konka tumbire wa Museveni atino tambure churu tino muntu kukwata mukono. Ndeba obwire ati burundu munonga. Rogers Ruganiro Wampara.
All right, thank you. Very much there. Let me get back in studio here. I have feedback from a gentleman called Agaba Benson. You're saying, tell Mr. Kateda that at one time the truth will reveal itself. When most Ugandans will start comparing the achievements of his governance for those of the years in power and the previous presidents whose government did a lot in a very short period, wait for NUP's governance. Thank you for the feedback and for all of you that are catching the show. Let's allow him first.
So thank you, SJ, and I want this to sink into the mind.
Use that microphone.
I would really love this to sink into the mind of our dear commissioner, the RDC,
Mm.
that right from the inception of Amin's tenure in leadership, President Museveni took up arms to fight him. And it was that serious that in 1972, which you quote that Amin expelled the Indians, but in 1972, President Museveni invaded Uganda through Chikagati, Isinjiro, and came here in Imbarara, and he was repulsed and went back with only 5 people of his fighters. So, and that began a tenure of instability. So there was no soap because Amin had expelled Indians. There was no soap in the shops because there was instability in Uganda. But nevertheless, me, I'm struggling here because I would want to list out some of the outstanding achievements of Idi Amin, at least from the book that I have had. And for
That
which
you've heard, you've read.
That I've read,
Yes.
I'm a testimony too that they exist.
Please go right ahead.
One is the satellite site in Mukono, Mpoma satellite site. For a P4 dropout at that time, to think and see that Uganda needs a satellite, I think it is something which we should. All the barracks, most of the barracks, including our own Simba barracks here in Makenke, at that time it was called Simba barracks, and the structures that you see there, they were built by Museveni. Has not even refurbished any of those houses of those soldiers. Look at this hospital. There are several hospitals in this country which have been built by Idi Amin, which were built by Idi Amin. So for me, for us to only say he killed, yet even in this government today, there is a standoff in parliament. The opposition walked out of parliament because we put a question to the government business side that please produce for us people like Chibarama, for the people, the 18 who are missing, the people who were killed in the November 2020 riots in Kampala, who killed Kauma in Arua. We have so many people who have been killed just because they identified with NUP or they identified with Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu. So for the RDC and his apologists to keep saying Amin killed, for us, we still insist that there is another narrative to those stories of the extrajudicial killings. So we have achievements that we should celebrate on the life of Idi Amin. And so it is very important that the president really repents and rescinds his decision and allows this institute to be created, moreover already at a standing university, so that we can study the history and the richness of Uganda's history in the 70s.
Well, there is an anonymous person that sent me a question to Mr. Imekatera saying in the president's letter that there was no constitution during the 8 years of Amin's government. How does he account for the NRA government between 1986 and 1996 when there was no constitution and no elections that were held? But I know there was a constitution. The 1967 constitution was.
You see, there was a 1967 constitution.
Yes.
Which was promulgated on the 8th of September 1967. Now, when President Museveni came, he suspended it. He suspended chapter 5 of the same. He suspended parliament. So there was no parliament for 8 years.
But there was a resistance
There's
council.
a difference between parliament and an NRC.
And
the NRC was a body of bushmen. It was not an elected body.
But if I told it was
it elected or
Rebecca
not?
Kadaga was not a bushman.
No.
Miriam Matembe
Those
was not
ones
a
joined the Legislative Assembly
No,
of Uganda.
sir. No, sir. No, sir.
You see,
Kadaga was in the NRC.
No. Was President Museveni elected as the chairperson of the NRC? Yes or no? No. So he imposed himself on us for 8 years. There are no elections.
But with the new establishment of a new order,
yes,
by the constitution that you and I know,
exactly,
going by the theory that we started with,
yes,
it gave the president power.
He should not say that in the regime of Idi Amin there was no parliament, there were no elections, because the same happened when Museveni was also in power. And you see, we have a recurrence of torture chambers. torture is a systemic and systematic way of dealing with the opposition in Uganda. And Museveni has been open about it. Where is the boxer Zebra Senyange? He's talking about extrajudicial killings of people of
The
Uganda.
president apologized for the same.
See, when you come to TV and you boast that we put him out of action as if he was
No,
a rebel.
you cannot boast and apologize at the same time.
No, you see,
the president
an apology
apologized for
must
that
be
mistake.
sincere, and you must account what steps are you doing to punish those who killed him. No one has been brought to account. He has a family. They are not in school. He has a wife. They don't know where their father is. They have never received any reasonable explanation. No.
Yeah.
They have never received any reasonable explanation why he was shot. He was a Ugandan. He deserved the right to live. And you see, we have never received a comprehensive and conclusive report on the Kasese massacre of innocent people. If that is not an extrajudicial killing, I don't know what it is. People whose hands were tied and shot. So I want the RDC to be consistent and remember that as a senior civil servant, he owes a duty to uphold the constitution and the people of Uganda and their rights.
All right.
Thank you so much. I respect your opinion. But as we sit here at this great hill of Mbarara, what we should have in our mind is that there are people listening to this show. As we talk and support Idi Amin, the relatives of late Bananuka are listening. The relatives of late Ndahendechere are listening.
But Bwana RDC.
When you are talking
But even Zebra has relatives. Even in Abu Kenya was knocked, even Saint was knocked by the UPDF truck here at Musenga.
And I want to quote the statement made by Prime Minister Netanyahu recently in this war.
Yeah.
He said we must distinguish people who are being killed unintentionally and people who are killed intentionally. When the Hamas invaded Israel on the 7th of October, they had not been provoked at all. They came, they killed 1,400 people, they abducted over 300 people, and took them and killed women and children. When Israel is exercising its own self-defense rights and is hitting back the invaders with an intention of eliminating them completely, civilians are caught in the crossfire.
Is that equity? Is that equity?
Yes.
If I stepped your toe, would you shoot me dead?
And I'm going to quote President Nyerere, what he said in 19... No, first wait.
Let's allow the RDC.
In 1978, when Amin's soldiers invaded his country and declared Kajere Salient as part of Uganda, President Nyerere stood in Dar es Salaam and addressed the nation. He said in Swahili, when a snake enters your house and you hit and it runs out, you must follow it to the bush and cut its head. Okay? When you are chasing the Hamas after killing all those thousands of Israelis, you don't stop at the border. You go to the bush where it is hiding and cut the head. What the Israelis are doing are cutting the head of the Hamas, the beasts.
Are the two-year-old children, 3-year-old children, pregnant women, the Hamas?
No, first wait.
Well, that's not a topic of discussion to the matter.
What I'm saying, those are dying, but unintentionally.
So what?
It is not the intention.
And
remember the Hamas.
So the killing of Senteza, Frank Senteza, at the roundabout of Buseka, the killing of Nabu Kenya, the killing of the so many of the drive of Sentamu, and these are the killings that have happened.
All those people you are mentioning up.
Yes.
First of all, they were involved in activisms, They were first.
It is not illegal.
No,
Mr.
they were
Anderson.
confronting the security forces.
Yes.
They were breaking all the laws of the country.
Yes.
They were upholding disorder. They were
Yes.
This, I'm telling
Yes.
you. Me, one time I said. Let me tell you. One time I said I saw soldiers when they were trying to disperse crowds in Kampala, and some soldiers on a patrol vehicle with sticks. They were hitting people who were on the roadside. And I said, among those who are on the roadside, shouting and burning tires, if my son is among them, I will convict him guilty. What are you do? Why do you waste all the time to come and confront with the security forces when the security forces are trying to restore order in an urban area? So those who
President
for
Museveni
example,
wasted
you are here
time and
shouting,
went
who
to
has
the
come
bush
kill you? Who has come to kill you?
at his youth.
How many guns do we have? Why have we not killed you?
Actually,
So
well,
those
Stephen, the
who want
government doesn't
to
know.
subject themselves to the face of fire will definitely get it. There is no doubt, there is no debate about that. You cannot confront armed soldiers, create disorder in town.
But Mr.
Point of
Mr.
information.
Ardis, we also know that
Point
these
of
security
information.
forces are trained to deal with civilians.
Yes,
Yes.
but the
No,
training
not-
must have a
not-
limit.
Okay.
Yes,
You see-
when
you
you're
see,
exercising professionalism, has a
You
limit.
see,
Okay.
I want to inform the Bwana DC that Israel has been murdering Palestinians since 1948. Every day that passes to a Palestinian is a nightmare. So the Hamas people, on behalf of the Palestinians, are doing the right thing to
Go and
defend
kill children and
themselves.
women.
To defend themselves
Go and invade.
from almost 90 years of what?
Well, we're talking
And,
about Idi Amin, not
and
the
also-
Israeli war.
Yes, just fine. And see, when you ban the establishment of an institute to remember a president of Uganda, and you name 30 roads in Kampala after British colonial masters who terrorized us for 72 years from 1890 to 1962 and continue to terrorize us, then that is double standards.
You are becoming a bit objective.
That is double standards. So
debate that we need
so
here.
so
Yes.
no, you see, it is not for
That's-
him to judge what is objective or subjective.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, but when he says you're now hitting the
She
nail
says
on the
it
head.
because I'm not attacking him.
Yes, but why should you attack him?
Yes,
It's
because-
unacceptable.
It is
No,
unacceptable.
I have a right to attack him in form of
Which
words.
right do you have?
Okay.
You see, a debate,
Where did that come from?
a debate is an intellectual battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, of ideas.
With respect and decorum.
Yes, but what amounts to respect is also subjective,
Okay.
because I don't owe him any duty to respect him.
Okay, let's go to the
And
telephone call.
so when you don't want people to remember somebody, especially a president, but you want people to remember the queen, the son of a queen,
But you see, Bwana Radisi,
people who
they've been
colonized us for
like,
72 years.
sometime we know of a journalist that wanted to document those that had been killed by General Idi Amin. So he made an announcement to all the people that could to come forward and speak of the people that had been killed by Amin in the 70s. None showed up. People do not have these numbers. Because they're talking about erasing literally about 1 million people or plus. It was like a genocide of Rwanda.
Me, when
or
I am
something.
talking about here, in 1972, you know me, I'm not talking because I read, as my colleagues are saying, that we read. I'm talking on issues I saw myself. In 1972 here, guerrillas came from Tanzania, and they came in two prongs. One through Masaka Road,
Yes.
headed by Oito Jok, others through Mbarara here to attack Simba Battalion by Yoweri Museveni. In 1972, I was in primary 7. Now, in that time, when the guerrillas were defeated, the guerrillas, I want the listeners to understand, are the present rebels. They used to call them guerrillas. Now, when they are repulsed here, Amin's soldiers went on rampage from Simba Battalion and had started arresting every person whom they suspected to have been aiding the guerrillas who came to attack the barracks. And one of the victims is Bananuka and others, they know, and Ntenje and the rest around here. And they were immediately killed. without actually being tried in any courts of law or any other thing. And just those are the only people I can only mention.
But in Germany, the Nazi under Adolf Hitler literally killed Jews, and yes, a Holocaust happened.
And that's
and the world still commemorates that gentleman.
Who?
Hitler.
Tell me any institution
Yes.
that is named after Hitler. Either road,
Perhaps I could
or
not know.
yes, or
Yes.
an education institute or health institute. Tell me.
All right.
We
I
have
have
a
none myself.
clerk of parliament called Adolf Mwesge.
Hey.
He's a vivid example of a person.
Adolf.
Yes, yes.
Castle have too
No,
much.
If you are named after a murderer, and you do not renounce the name,
We did see that coming, sir.
yes,
We did not see that
you
coming.
cannot see everything. so when you do not exercise your right,
Your chambers.
when you don't renounce your right, actually,
Yes.
he should come
Hey.
to my chambers and we make for him a deed poll, and he changes that name. Otherwise, we have no reason to think that he does not support the ideology of Nazism.
But
Right.
Adolf did not start with Hitler. Adolf is a
Of
name
course,
that
of
anyone
course,
can get.
yes, it is his right to maintain that name, but it is also his right.
So
to
should we
renounce
say
it.
now every other child that will be born
course not.
Benjamin, because Netanyahu is leading the massacre of Palestinians in Gaza?
Means last born.
All right.
So it doesn't.
Let's
let
go.
me-
Yes.
Let me also state something that when you talk about soldiers of Amin, looting and so forth, don't go far. In the north, the UPDF soldiers are usually at rampage. They raped people there. Actually, go to the decision of the ICJ in DRC versus Uganda. What the UPDF did in Congo is intolerable. It is actually unspeakable. Raping, looting. Now, if that regime is not compared to the Idi Amin regime, because of course I've heard Dr. Barjomun say that you cannot compare heaven and hell, as if he has ever been in any of there. So heaven and hell are really irrelevant. So,
Yeah.
We are actually
and you see the statements of the Ouattara DC that the people who have been killed because of activism. Now, those are words of a frustrated man. Activism is not an offense.
Yeah, but
If you are aggrieved by my activism, arrest me, take me to the courts of law and convict me. But if you do not and you resort to hunting me and shooting me dead and you ask questions later, then that's not due
Maybe.
process.
No,
That's not fair.
maybe to
Okay.
So this regime is more torturous, actually more illegal than that one of Idi Amin, because the atrocities committed herein are unspeakable.
Thank you
okay.
so much. Now, I wanted to clarify on the atrocities purportedly being done by UPDF in comparison with the Amin's soldiers. Right now, we have checks and balances within the UPDF. We have established court martials, unit court martials, and field court martials. We are all having them. You have remembered that right now, a court martial is going on in Somalia, trying our soldiers who are serving in peacekeeping missions. So, some of those excesses are individually executed, but they are also prevailed upon by the
But
leadership.
we haven't seen those that killed people in November 2021 during the demonstrations of the opposition tried before an open court.
Those ones did not commit any offense. Because they were confronting. Let me tell you, they were confronting. Actually,
Okay.
that's why the president said we managed to kill 50 terrorists.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Let's
Because,
go.
Yes. Because, yes, the moment they were now killing people in Kampala, throwing stones, making people to kneel down, sing the Buganda Jewish anthem, okay? Confronting people.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's
Stealing them whatever, all the possessions they had. They went beyond.
Okay.
They
Thank
went
you.
beyond
Thank
and
you.
they deserved what they
All right, November Love. Right now, get the opportunity
And
to
they
call
made-
in. Please, Mr. RDC, get to calling and win yourself a hamper from Baka Electronics. Visit Baka Electronics and Electro today and walk away with a smile. We have solar systems, batteries, Bluetooth speakers, woofers, and all types of electronics. Located at Mbaguta Street, opposite the Central Market. Reach us on 0775 294 or 0753 401 795. Baka Electronics and Electrical, best prices ever. Now call in and win yourself a hamper from Baka Electronics of Bluetooth earpiece. I like to listen to music. I'm very sure this will work for any of you that would love to win this. On 752 912 912 and 780 912 910. November Love.
Yes, Cruise FM.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
November Love.
November Love.
Yes, you want to win yourself the Bluetooth speakers from Baka Electronics?
Yes, this is Isa Majiga Banks to an roundabout.
Now speak your real name so that I get you to. What's your name?
My name is Aro Isa.
Aruho Isa.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when does the Fat Friday happen?
Fat Friday. There is DJ Emma and the Berga MC.
When does it happen?
There is sawa video kutoka sawa mkaga.
All right. When does the Jazz Junction drop?
Jazz Junction evera uruvanyuma rw'esawa nga webegenda.
Okay. Give me your name and where you've called from.
There is Aro Isa Kakova.
You're in Kakova. Give me your number.
It is 07423
07423
53 167.
167. All right, congratulations. You win yourself a Bluetooth earpiece from Baka Electronics. Thank you so much for those that have been a part of the campaign all the way up to the end of this month. You get to walk away with all kind of goodies each hour. All that is courtesy of November Love. Now, if I told you a business owner, it's not too late to walk at Cruise FM and get yourself a 50% discount when you advertise with us throughout the month of November. But I want to appreciate every other person that turned up yesterday at Luxor, where we had a good time. Now, we're coming in your area, the people of Kasese, Ivanda, Ntungamo, Rushere, all these places will be in your area to celebrate with you and give back, to thank you for being a part of the 12 years of being Western Uganda's biggest radio station. We're not about to stop, but all the way. And with me in studio is Mr. Ime Katera. He is the RDC from Barra District Council, Wenje Deus did it, who is a lawyer, and Mr. Peter Mpaka, who belongs to the National Unity Platform. We're talking about the legacy of Idi Amin Dada, the conqueror of the British Empire and the name it Field Marshal. So many titles behind that man's name. But he did a couple of things in the 8 years that he was president. But he's also infamous for the so many atrocities that happened, including the murder of the Archbishop, Janan Luum, and the VC of Makerere University, the governor, Mubiru of the Central Bank, and the so many people that passed away. And the conversation is on our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on Twitter. Go like, follow, comment, and give us feedback. And on Facebook at 91.2 Cruise FM. Don't forget, you can be able to watch the show on Cruise TV, on TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I want to draw a line, actually, to draw a similarity between the lives of Idi Amin as a person and the lives of the Honorable Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu. Their lives are lives of a person who grew up in poverty and rose through the ranks of society to achieve something for our country. Now, to rubbish such a person is not only an understatement of his achievements, but it's an expression of misappreciation or misapprehension of the struggles the everyday person in Uganda tries to overcome. Idi Amin, as uneducated as he was, he rose to the position of the army commander. He became the president of the Republic of Uganda, a country which was only 6 years, actually it was only 9 years independent. But he took us for 8 years. What might have gone wrong is of course known, but we should also attribute the same to the current government. The agents of President Museveni were very active at the time, and not all the bad things which happened are absolutely attached to President Idi Amin. So when we make blanket statements, we should remember that he might not have been responsible for each and everything. And also, let us not forget that he's still an innocent man. No competent court has ever convicted him of any single offense, whether even if it's a traffic violation, nothing.
All right.
So his record, his criminal record, is very, very soft. And so when we talk about him, he has a family, but the statements which the RDC is making, he should also remember and know that when President Museveni has gone, the same statements are going to come back and haunt him. And let's not also forget that President Idi Amin did not have a son who was very active in the army as well as in the politics of the country, like we have now, where the president of the country has surrendered control of the state to a son whom he fears.
Okay.
And Amin never had a son whom he feared.
Okay.
So he was in control of the state for those 8 years, but Museveni is in control of nothing. So
all right.
we are being led by a person whom we never elected.
Thank you. Apollo Tumsime, thank you so much for listening to the show. Getting back to the feedback, Dixon Banini, you're saying, but the truth is that Idi Amin had a lot of extrajudicial practices, and there is no argument because we have gotten the people who had the test of it and who are still living today. However, I believe in exoneration. When you cannot easily bring the alleged perpetrator to book for now, we just can't do bad on top of another. I have no problem with naming Idi Amin after the institute there. Yes, Mr. RDC.
Thank you so much. I've been listening very carefully to the council here. But before I respond to his submissions, I want to talk briefly about the installation of the Earth satellite stations by Idi Amin. It is true. He mentioned he put them on Poma and even that one Ombachi in Alua. These were the state-of-art Earth satellites. But unfortunately, nobody had a television set in his house. These satellite stations are supposed to be transmitting information and communication from the outside world to the population. How many people owned the radios that time, and how many radio stations?
So
do
what
we have?
has
First wait,
the NRM done
first wait,
to make people have TVs?
When you are talking about how many people owned radios and even televisions. So what we are talking right now, how many radios do we have in the whole country, and how many families own television sets in their houses and radios? That is why people said we cannot compare here and heaven. Now, when my council there is struggling to justify the humbleness in order to attract public sympathy of how Chagulanyi grew in a humble family, of how Amin grew in a humble family, what about our present president? Our present president was actually, you can see where he was living, in relative, in Mtungamo, in Mbarala here, very humble. No, we don't have any evidence that there is a state that paid him school fees.
Yes.
He struggled for himself. His parents were not. His parents were not educated.
Paid for by the father of Byanyima.
Yes.
Byanyima.
Yes.
So,
Boniface.
Yes.
Yes, that was not a state.
No.
Now,
Yes, it wasn't.
yes, because this Chagulanyi you are talking about is actually a product of NRM government.
And where's that freedom now?
You see?
He cannot hold a
no,
concert.
Let him go back to sing.
No, why?
Why? So now,
why doesn't Museveni also go back to cattle keeping?
Okay.
Let him also go back.
So now, the Amin you are talking about, this is a man who was enlisted in the Second World War, and he grew up as a soldier. And by default, in 1971, uneducated as he was, he ascends to power. The man was completely having no knowledge of any administration of any society. And people who had gone to school like Museveni, who was working in the president's office, saw that Uganda was now leading to hell. People had to stand up and be counted. He had to go to Tanzania, and under Karandestein, after 80 years, they succeeded in removing this man who had become a problem to the whole world now, who had become calling President Nyerere a wife to marry. You know, that you can imagine that diplomatic trash. You see? So now, he just failed under his own weight.
But that whole narrative you're perpetuating is also wrong. There's no one who has a right to abuse.
Who can?
There's nothing like right to abuse.
A man who declared that for the extermination of all tribes, for example, Acholi and Langi, that they should all be killed, and indeed they were killed. Really? That is some.
Please don't.
Yes, because they killed all soldiers. They paraded them in my presence and killed them. Who doesn't know this? You killed an archbishop, an inspector general of police. What?
No one has ever convicted him.
But
that is hearsay.
Why wasn't he tried?
That is hearsay.
This man died yesterday here in 2003.
Yes.
Why didn't they try him in absentia?
We have two courts of law. We have public opinion, and even the public opinion convicted Idi Amin. And
what was the offense?
Because let me tell you,
what was the offense?
Obote died.
But every day public opinion is said to have convicted
typical RDC. The typical RDC. They will look at you and know that the court of public opinion has sentenced you. Go back home.
Because there is evidence.
That is it.
If you was to be alive
and
you can be, you would
the court
be
of
tried.
public opinion appears nowhere in our constitution.
Nowhere under
our law.
Under our hierarchy of
it may be under the courts martial, which are not independent. They only obey the orders of the person who appoints them.
Okay.
So,
Idi Amin was convicted in the court of public opinion.
Come here and lie to the people of Uganda. The people of Uganda have sentenced the person, a former president,
our former president,
when they are not even aware, when he has never appeared before them.
No.
Okay. Our time is fast spent. Let's allow Peter. Yes.
Let me before he comes in.
Yes. I'm going to give you an opportunity to close out.
To give my parting shot really, because for me, I want to insist on this, that there is a lot of wealth in Uganda's history. And people from now, maybe the listener that is listening to me, we should go out and dig out. There are so many books that we have not read. There are so many people who are there and we don't even know our clans simply because these things are not documented. So for President Museveni to come and say that bury that hatchet, please don't talk about it, he is denying us a lot. Otherwise, for me, I want to say that Amin is part of the chapters of a country called Uganda and a culture called Uganda. You cannot simply bury it and cover it.
All right.
Yes, as I wind up, I want to inform the president of our country, Museveni, not to be a coward. Let him face the achievements of Idi Amin, because they are there, we know them, and we see them. And the people of Uganda should not depend on hearsay, hearsay evidence that the regime of Idi Amin was worse. No, this regime here is the worst we have ever had since 1890.
Okay, thank you.
Before, as I wind up, I want to thank my fellow panelists present here. But there is something I want to read as from a caller.
In a second, really.
Yes. This is Peter Kabagambe from Chihunda, Chigango, Shema. Thank you for sensitizing that group of the talk show. And of course, Ugandans as a whole. They should patiently allow you to educate them. We lived through that terrible regime. It was a miracle that we survived to tell the sad story. Amin's son Taban was a terrorist. He commanded Marine soldiers who invaded Makerere University in 1976, who killed and maimed a number of students and lecturers.
Our time is fast
while
spent.
a number of them fled the country.
In a second,
I want
really.
to thank.
No.
First of all, I want to thank. These are the opinions of the listeners.
Yes.
I want to thank the listeners. I want to thank the management of Cruise FM, and I want to appeal as I wind up that as we respect this talk show, we should have a respectful discussion.
All right, thank you.
I wouldn't like me to come here. Somebody just
and I apologize. I think going forward,
you call a shamba boy a person who has shambas, who has family doctors and family lawyers.
Okay, thank
who
you.
Can even employ.
Who
can even employ.
Thank you, Mr. Imekatera, the RDC Mbara District. Thank you, Mr. Peter Mpaka. Thank you. Thank you, Council Wenje Deus needed. My punchline this
even be my family lawyer.
My punchline this week is the candidate. It starts from there. Please give it the attention it deserves. Let's meet next week on the big seat. We have news at the top of the hour. November love.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its management.
This radio is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission, UCC.